There's a phrase that's now become a little bit cliche, the wisdom of the crowds. Crowds can be wise, but crowds can also be stupid and violent. Crowds can be mobs. So what you want to do is tap into the wisdom, that find those people who actually have something to contribute to the project. Also, for a lot of these things, go to where the conversation is. If you've got to start from scratch every single time you do something, that's a lot of work. Bootstrapping these projects takes a lot of time. One of the positive things about Ushahidi is that they build every single time they do work. And they actually, they've developed a network of people who are involved. So let me just show you some of the things that, as journalists, do that use these kind of strategies. People have to get value out of this. So somebody said, what's Web 2.0? Now this isn't 3 words. I'm a journalist. I always write late, and I write over what I'm supposed to. But one of the best definitions of Web 2.0 actually comes from the source. Dale Dougherty, he works for O'Reilly. O'Reilly is the consultancy that coined the term Web 2.0. And one of the things that he said is Web 2.0, after the dot-com boom, they found that certain companies had survived and were actually thriving. And the thing that set aside the companies that failed and the companies that survived were the companies that survived. The more people that used their services, the more valuable it got to the people who used them. It's the network effect. Basically, instead of the network being strained, the network got smarter and more effective. And that's what we're seeing with projects like Ushahidi. The network gets better the more people who are participating. Now this, how does that play into this? This is a great example from a newspaper in Bakersfield, California. It's now been copied everywhere. This is a map of potholes, big holes in the road. I'm sure you've seen a few. The red markers are the potholes that aren't fixed. That's most of them. The green ones are the ones that have been fixed. All they did is have their readers say, look, where's a pothole? Let us know where it is. We'll put it up on a map. And then those people can go to City Hall and local council and say, look at all these potholes. Somebody should do something about it. But it's actually adding a service to users because they've got some way now to put pressure on the local council and the city council to get a job done that they need to fix it. Some of these actually have pictures on them. As a matter of fact, there's one guy who took a picture where he's driven one of these big, massive SUVs, and the hole is actually about yay big. So they're actually getting value out of this. It's not just, we're not asking people, come do our jobs as journalists. We're saying, look, if you do this, you help us tell a story, but you also help you get something done in your community. So for the last year in the UK, we've been sort of disgusted with our members of parliament because they've been sort of being rather gracious to themselves as far as taking money in expenses. So some of the great stories that come out of this is one MP used it to clean his moat. So he's got a moat around his house and he used public money to clean his moat. I wish I had money to afford a moat. But this is what this guy's done. Now, it's the nice thing about it is it suddenly exposed something that the MPs knew while they were doing, but the public didn't really know that they were doing. Now, last year they released 400,000 receipts of expenses that they have done. That's 400,000. Now, that takes a long time to trundle through. So at The Guardian, what we did was we said, okay, there are a lot of expense claims. If you can help us spot the ones that are interesting, we can get better information to you faster. And we've done this now 3 times, and we've learned every single step of the way about how to do this better. The first time, we were just trying to build something really quickly. The second time, we already knew how to build something quickly, so then we wanted to figure out, how to make it better. These are some of the lessons we've learned. So set a clear goal. Like I said, don't just ask people to get involved or people to help. Make sure you're really clear about what you want them to do. The first time, we found we actually asked the wrong question. We said, is this interesting? Well, people didn't really know what interesting meant. So the next time, we thought a lot more about the question and we clarified it. Again, break the task down into people-sized bits. A lot of journalists, when they approach crowdsourcing, they're like, I had a senior editor say, we want the crowd to figure out what happened in the lead up to the war in Iraq. Yeah, well, a lot of people would like to figure that out. But that's not a people-sized project. That's a huge-sized project. is there anything that that people can help us with? So in this project, we broke it down. So the second time we did it, we didn't just say, here are 400,000 expense claims, help us out. We said, here are 40,000. The next one was 10 times less. Here are ones from the Labour Party. Here's one from the Conservative Party. Here are ones from the Liberal Democrats, two major parties in the UK. So we tapped into, if you really don't like one of these parties, you probably want to look at those receipts first. Here are expenses for sort of, furniture. Here are expenses for, extra, fixing their houses. So here are expenses they might have to do with cleaning up their moat. Show your work. We gave them progress bars. So we said, okay, here's the goal. You want to fit this goal, and every step of the way, it provided motivation. And as I've kind of mentioned with this, think about all of the psychological reasons for why people would want to get involved. So we listed the party affiliation because we thought, okay, if you really hate a party, you're going to want to go through those expenses because you want to screw somebody in that party. Okay, that's fine. It may not be the most noble goal on the planet, but that's great. You go ahead and do that. And it worked. We plowed through 40,000 receipts in about 8 hours. And we did it much, much faster than the first time we did it. And a lot of it is, again, thinking about why people would get involved. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of these projects make is that they think that everybody is as noble as you are. That everybody just wants to make the world a better place. Unfortunately, that's not what gets everybody up in the morning. That's sad to say. I mean, wouldn't it be a great world? So you have to think about all of the psychological motivations, all of the reasons why people might want to participate, why they might, and some of those motivations may be different than yours, but they'll get more people involved. So getting people involved in building a community around what you're doing. I mean, I think this is the most important thing. And I've got a friend in the States, and he builds community journalism projects. And the reason why he builds them is because he wants to build social capital in the communities he serves. Social capital, what's that? He wants to make stronger connections between the people in that community. One of the communities he serves, it's a retirement community. Nobody's from there. They're from somewhere else in the United States. And so nobody really has a connection to there. Nobody really has a connection to each other. So how do you help people sort of feel a part of something? Now, some of the best lessons for how to do this actually don't come from the traditional media because we're really crap at this. Because we don't think about how to build community. We just want to sell newspapers. So one of my favorite examples is a podcast. Now, this podcast, Cover Them, it's done by a guy just south of Denver, Colorado, Brian Keynote. It's a guy in his basement, right? He does great podcasts. The podcast is called Cover Them. Cover songs. So basically, it is a band doing a version of a famous song. So let's say somebody who wants to do a Beatles song, or a Led Zeppelin song, or whatever. And the show is devoted to covers of that band or covers of that artist. Now, Brian is probably one of the best people in terms of building a community around what he's doing. So he's got a map that lists all of the contributors and people who listen. Now, these are his listeners in Australia, all the way on the other side of the world, listening to a guy who makes a podcast in his basement in Colorado in the United States. Now, here's the audience participation part of this, okay? So I just want to warn you, you've been sitting back now, I want you to kind of step forward. So he's got this great list of contributors, and he's got something called Musically Challenged. It's a trivia contest. But podcasters all around the world produce these wonderful audio trivia contests for him. And here's one from, again, Hamburg, Germany.
This is Christoph from Hamburg. Brian, you said you needed more musically challenged, so here's something that I call vertically challenged. As you can hear, we're in a kind of a mall or supermarket. It's an Italian one because I didn't find another sound clip for the background. And you're going to listen to some pieces that I did on my Mac quite a while ago. Originally, they were hard rock or punk songs, but they're a bit in the style of what you hear in elevators in shopping malls. So, of course, you have to find the original artists and the original songs. Let's go for a ride.
Okay, so you get that, right? We're going to hear Muzak versions of hard rock and punk songs? Elevator music style? Okay.